Stop procrastinating now. The mindset shift to achieve your biggest goals. Chapter 1. The hidden cost of waiting. Procrastination is not a time problem. It is not a planning problem. It is not a motivation problem. Procrastination is a mindset problem. Until you understand this, you will keep fighting the wrong enemy and repeating the same cycle of delay, guilt, stress, and regret. Most people believe they procrastinate because they are lazy, distracted, or undisciplined. This belief is not only false, it is damaging. When you label yourself as lazy, you attack your identity instead of fixing the system. Procrastination is not a character flaw. It is a learned response to discomfort, fear, and uncertainty. At its core, procrastination is the habit of choosing short-term relief over long-term progress. Your mind seeks comfort, certainty, and safety. Your goals demand effort, risk, and emotional exposure. When these two forces collide, the untrained mind chooses avoidance. Not because it wants failure, but because it wants relief. This is why procrastination feels irrational. You know what to do. You know it matters. You know delaying will hurt you later. Yet you still avoid starting. This is not a lack of intelligence. It is a lack of psychological alignment between your present self and your future self. Every time you procrastinate, you pay a hidden cost. You pay with mental energy. Tasks left undone do not disappear. They linger in the background of your mind, creating tension and cognitive overload. Even when you are resting, part of your brain is occupied by what you are avoiding. This constant low-level stress drains focus, creativity, and clarity. You pay with self-trust. Each delay sends a message to your mind, I don't follow through. Over time, this erodes confidence. You stop believing your own plans. You lower expectations. You hesitate to set ambitious goals, not because you lack ability but because you no longer trust yourself to act. You pay with opportunity. Procrastination does not just delay success, it quietly removes options. Missed deadlines, abandoned ideas, unfinished skills, and unrealized potential accumulate. While others move forward through imperfect action, procrastinators stay stuck preparing for a future that never arrives. You pay with identity. Repeated delay shapes how you see yourself. You begin to identify as someone who starts but does not finish, who plans but does not execute. This identity becomes self-reinforcing. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. The most dangerous cost of procrastination is not lost time, it is the slow shrinking of your belief in what is possible for you. Procrastination thrives on emotional avoidance. When a task triggers fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success, or fear of uncertainty, your mind looks for escape. That escape often appears as distraction, busyness, or productive procrastination, doing small, safe tasks instead of the meaningful one. Your brain is wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure. In the modern world, pleasure is instant and endless. Distractions are always available. This makes procrastination easier than ever and discipline harder than ever. The problem is not willpower, it is that your environment and habits are training your brain to avoid effort. Another reason procrastination persists is perfectionism. Many people delay because they want to do things perfectly. This is not high standards, it is fear wearing a mask. Perfectionism says if I can't do it perfectly, I won't start. This keeps you safe from criticism but guarantees stagnation. There is also decision paralysis. Too many options, too much information, and too many expectations overwhelm the mind. When clarity is missing, action stalls. The mind delays not because it doesn't care, but because it does not know where to begin. Understanding these mechanisms is critical, because you cannot defeat what you do not understand. Procrastination is not the enemy. It is a signal. It signals fear that has not been addressed. It signals goals that feel too vague or too large. It signals systems that rely on motivation instead of structure. It signals an identity that has not yet caught up to your potential. This book is not about forcing yourself to work harder. It is about rewiring the way you think about action. The moment you shift from fighting procrastination to understanding it, you regain control. The first mindset shift is this. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. Most people wait to feel ready. Ready is a feeling. Feelings are unreliable. If you wait for motivation, confidence, or clarity, you will wait indefinitely. Action, even small, imperfect action, creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation. Motivation creates confidence. Another critical shift is learning to separate identity from performance. Failing to act does not mean you are a failure. It means your system failed. When you stop personalizing delay, you can fix the cause instead of attacking yourself. You must also understand that starting is psychologically harder than continuing. The brain resists beginnings because beginnings require uncertainty. Once you start, resistance drops. This is why the smallest step is often the most powerful. Procrastination ends when action becomes safer than avoidance. This chapter is not asking you to change everything today. It is asking you to stop lying to yourself about why you wait. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not incapable. You have simply been operating with a mindset that protects comfort instead of progress. From this point forward, the goal is not to eliminate procrastination forever. The goal is to act despite it, to recognize resistance and move anyway, to design your environment, habits, and identity so that action becomes the default. Every great achievement begins the same way, with a decision to stop waiting. Not waiting for motivation. Not waiting for confidence. Not waiting for the perfect plan. Waiting has already cost you enough. In the next chapter, you will learn why your brain resists important tasks, and how to work with your psychology instead of against it. For now, understand this truth. The life you want is not blocked by lack of talent or opportunity. It is blocked by delay. And delay ends the moment you decide to act. Chapter 2. Why your brain resists what matters most. If procrastination were simply a lack of discipline, the solution would be easy. You would decide to act, and you would. But procrastination persists even in intelligent, capable, ambitious people. This is because the problem is not effort. It is how the brain is wired to protect you. Your brain's primary job is not success. It is survival. Long before goals, deadlines, and ambition existed, the human brain evolved to keep you safe, conserve energy, and avoid danger. Anything uncertain, demanding, or emotionally risky is treated with caution. In the modern world, important tasks often trigger the same internal alarms as physical threats once did. Your brain does not distinguish between a predator and the fear of failure. It reacts to both as risk. This is why the tasks that matter most, the ones that could change your life, are often the hardest to start. Big goals carry uncertainty. Uncertainty feels unsafe, so the brain resists. This resistance does not show up as fear in a dramatic way. It shows up quietly, subtly, and convincingly. You suddenly feel tired. You decide to just check something quickly. You convince yourself that tomorrow will be better. These are not random behaviors. They are avoidance strategies designed to protect you from discomfort. The brain uses three main mechanisms to block action. The first is threat amplification. When a task matters, the brain exaggerates the potential risks. What if you fail? What if you waste time? What if others judge you? What if you succeed and expectations increase? The brain magnifies consequences to discourage action. The second is energy conservation. The brain prefers familiar routines because they require less energy. New tasks, especially challenging ones, demand focus and effort. From the brain's perspective, avoiding effort feels efficient, even if it sabotages long-term goals. The third is emotional avoidance. Many important tasks trigger emotions like doubt, frustration, embarrassment, or fear. The brain seeks immediate emotional relief. Procrastination provides that relief by removing the discomfort, temporarily. This is why procrastination often feels good in the moment and terrible later. Understanding this changes everything. You stop seeing resistance as a personal failure and start seeing it as a predictable biological response. And what is predictable can be managed. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to overpower their brain with willpower. Willpower is limited. It fluctuates with sleep, stress, emotions, and energy. If your system relies on willpower, procrastination will win more often than not. Instead of forcing action, you must lower the brain's perception of threat. The brain resists importance, not work. Low-stakes tasks feel safe. High-stakes tasks feel dangerous. This is why people clean their room, organize files, or handle trivial tasks instead of starting meaningful work. The brain prefers certainty over impact. To break this pattern, you must reframe action. Stop telling your brain, "This is important. This will change everything. I must get this right." These thoughts increase pressure, and pressure increases resistance. Instead, tell your brain, "This is small. This is safe. This is just the first step." The brain does not resist small actions. Another key insight is that clarity reduces fear. Vague goals create anxiety. Clear steps create movement. "I need to work on my future" is overwhelming. "I will write the first sentence" is manageable. The brain resists ambiguity. When it does not know what success looks like, it delays. Breaking tasks into concrete, visible steps removes uncertainty and unlocks action. There is also a powerful connection between procrastination and identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline, Your brain looks for evidence to support that belief. Each delay reinforces the identity. This creates a feedback loop. Identity shapes behavior, behavior reinforces identity. To change behavior, you must begin changing identity. Instead of saying, I procrastinate, say, I am someone who starts even when it's uncomfortable. Identity shifts begin with small actions, not declarations. Each time you act despite resistance, you weaken the old identity and strengthen a new one. Another reason the brain resists important work is delayed reward. Meaningful goals rarely provide instant gratification. The brain prefers immediate rewards, entertainment, comfort, distraction. This makes long-term goals feel unattractive in comparison. The solution is not to remove pleasure. It is to attach reward to action. When you reward effort, not results, you train your brain to associate action with satisfaction. This rewiring makes consistency easier over time. Your environment also plays a massive role. A distracting environment trains your brain to avoid focus. A cluttered, noisy, notification-filled space increases resistance and drains attention. You cannot expect your brain to choose effort in an environment designed for distraction. Design your environment to make action the easiest option. Reduce friction. Remove distractions. Create cues that trigger work. The goal is not to fight your brain. The goal is to guide it. The moment you stop treating resistance as an enemy and start treating it as a signal, you gain control. Resistance does not mean stop. It means simplify, clarify, reduce pressure. Begin smaller. Your brain will always try to protect you from discomfort. Your job is to teach it that discomfort is not danger. Every time you act despite resistance, you send a powerful message. I am safe while doing hard things. Over time, the brain learns. Resistance weakens. Action becomes familiar. Confidence grows, not because fear disappears but because it no longer controls you. This is the foundation of the mindset shift. You do not wait for the brain to approve. You move gently, strategically, and consistently until action becomes normal. In the next chapter, you will learn how to shrink tasks so small that procrastination has nowhere to hide, and how tiny actions create unstoppable momentum. Chapter 3. Make the first step too small to avoid. Procrastination survives on one simple condition. The task feels too big, too vague, or too heavy to start. Remove that condition and procrastination loses its power. The fastest way to do that is not motivation, pressure, or discipline. It is making the first step so small that resistance has nowhere to hide. Most people fail to start because they focus on the entire task instead of the entry point. They think about finishing, outcomes, expectations, and consequences. The brain reacts to this scale with avoidance. It does not care that the task is important. It only sees effort, uncertainty, and risk. Your mind does not resist work. It resists overwhelm. When a task feels overwhelming, the brain delays. When a task feels manageable, the brain moves. This is why small actions are not weak actions. They are strategic actions. The strongest mindset shift you can make is this. You do not need to feel ready to take a small step. You only need to begin. The brain is wired to fear beginnings because beginnings contain uncertainty. Once you are in motion, uncertainty drops. Momentum replaces resistance. Action creates clarity. This is why starting is the hardest part, and why shrinking the start is the smartest move. Instead of asking, how do I finish this? What is the smallest visible action I can take right now? Not the best action. Not the perfect action. The smallest one. If your goal is to write, the first step is not write a chapter. It is open the document. If your goal is to study, the first step is not master the material. It is open the book. If your goal is to exercise, the first step is not complete a full workout. It is put on your shoes. These steps seem trivial, and that is exactly why they work. Tiny actions bypass the brain's threat response. The mind does not resist what feels safe. Once you begin, continuing becomes easier than stopping. This principle is called activation energy. Every task requires an initial burst of energy to start. Large tasks require high activation energy. Small tasks require almost none. Your job is not to eliminate resistance. Your job is to lower activation energy. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to motivate themselves before starting. Motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates. It disappears under stress. Action, however, is concrete. Action comes first. Motivation follows. Another powerful technique is the 2-minute rule. Commit to working on a task for just 2 minutes. Not longer. No pressure to continue. Just begin. 2 minutes feels safe to the brain. It does not trigger fear or resistance. And here's the truth. Once 2 minutes pass, stopping feels harder than continuing. You don't need long sessions to build momentum. You need consistent starts. Procrastination weakens when starting becomes a habit. There is also a psychological shift that happens when you start small. Your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids tasks and start seeing yourself as someone who begins. Identity is built through evidence. Small actions create evidence. Evidence reshapes belief. Every small start says, I am someone who acts. That belief compounds faster than any motivational speech ever could. Another reason small steps work is that they create clarity. Before starting, everything feels confusing. After starting, structure emerges. You see what needs to happen next. Confusion dissolves through engagement. Waiting for clarity before acting is a trap. Clarity comes from action, not before it. You must also learn to remove finishing pressure. Many people procrastinate because they secretly believe that once they start, they must finish. This belief creates paralysis. Starting does not mean committing to completion. Starting means entering motion. Give yourself permission to stop. Ironically, this makes continuation easier. When the brain knows it can exit, it feels safer to enter. This chapter is not about doing less. It is about starting smarter. Big goals are not achieved through big bursts of effort. They are achieved through small starts repeated daily. A single tiny action may feel insignificant, but insignificance is what makes it unstoppable. The brain does not fight what feels harmless. Momentum is not dramatic. It is quiet. It builds invisibly. One small step today leads to another tomorrow. Over time, those steps form systems, habits, and confidence. This is how procrastination collapses, not through force but through consistency. You must also stop negotiating with yourself. Negotiation invites delay. Decide the smallest action in advance. When the time comes, execute without debate. No thinking. No evaluating. No bargaining. Just start. Your future self does not need you to be fearless. It needs you to be willing to begin small. Procrastination feeds on delay. Action starves it. Every meaningful change in your life will begin the same way, not with a breakthrough but with a small, almost unimpressive step. That step is enough. Chapter 4. Design an environment that forces action. Willpower is not your problem. Your environment is. Most people try to beat procrastination by relying on motivation, self-control, or discipline. These tools fail because they are fragile. They break under stress, fatigue, boredom, and emotion. Your environment, however, is always working on you, either for you or against you. If your surroundings are designed for comfort, distraction, and convenience, procrastination becomes the default. If your surroundings are designed for focus, clarity, and momentum, action becomes easier than avoidance. You do not rise to the level of your intentions. You fall to the level of your environment. Procrastination is often a rational response to an irrational setup. Your brain chooses the path of least resistance. If distraction is easy and action is hard, your brain will choose distraction every time. This is not weakness, it is efficiency. The solution is not to become stronger. The solution is to make action easier than avoidance. Start by understanding this principle. What is visible gets done. What is hidden gets ignored. If your phone is within reach, your brain will use it. If your workspace is cluttered, your attention will scatter. If your tools are buried under friction, you will delay using them. Design begins with subtraction. Remove unnecessary triggers. Silence notifications. Limit open tabs. Clear physical clutter. Each removal reduces mental noise. Each reduction increases clarity. You cannot focus in a battlefield of distractions. Next comes friction management. Add friction to bad habits. Remove friction from good habits. If you want to stop scrolling, make it harder. Log out. Delete apps. Keep your phone in another room. Every extra step creates a pause, and pauses create choice. If you want to work, make it easy. Keep tools ready. Open documents in advance. Prepare your workspace before you need it. The brain avoids effort. When effort is minimized, resistance collapses. One powerful technique is environmental priming. This means arranging your space so that it silently cues action. A notebook on your desk signals writing. Running shoes by the door signal movement. A checklist signals execution. Your environment should tell you what to do without words. Another critical factor is default behavior. What happens when you don't think? What do you do when you're tired, stressed, or bored? Your default environment determines your default behavior. If your default leads to distraction, procrastination wins. If your default leads to action, progress happens automatically. This is why routines matter. Not because they are rigid, but because they remove decision-making. Decisions drain energy. Routines conserve it. Decide once. Execute many times. Your workspace deserves special attention. A workspace is not about aesthetics, it is about function. It should signal seriousness, clarity, and purpose. When you sit down, your brain should know exactly why you are there. Avoid mixing environments. Do not work where you relax. Do not relax where you work. Context shapes behavior. Train your brain through consistency. Another overlooked factor is time environment. Certain hours of the day naturally support focus better than others. Identify your peak energy windows and protect them. Do your hardest work when your brain is strongest. Procrastination thrives when energy is low and tasks are demanding. Strategic timing reduces resistance dramatically. Social environment matters too. The people around you influence what feels normal. If everyone around you delays, avoids, and complains, procrastination feels justified. If people around you act, build, and execute, action feels expected. You do not need more motivation. You need better standards. Raise the standard of your environment. Another powerful strategy is pre-commitment. Decide in advance what you will do and remove the option to negotiate later. Schedule tasks. Set public accountability. Create consequences for inaction. When choices disappear, action happens. Your brain loves certainty. Pre-commitment replaces uncertainty with structure. You must also learn to respect transitions. Starting is hardest when you jump from stimulation to focus. Build transition rituals, short routines that signal it is time to work. This could be breathing, stretching, journaling, or reviewing a task list. Rituals calm the brain and reduce resistance. One of the most dangerous environments is the digital one. It is engineered to capture attention, fragment focus, and reward delay. If you do not design boundaries, your focus will be monetized by someone else. Use technology intentionally, not reactively. Tools should serve your goals, not replace them. This chapter is not about perfection. It is about control. Control over what enters your attention. Control over what competes with your goals. When your environment is aligned with your intentions, discipline becomes easier. Focus becomes natural. Action becomes the path of least resistance. You stop fighting yourself. Procrastination fades not because you try harder, but because your environment stops encouraging it. This is the quiet power of design. Chapter 5. Act even when you don't feel like it. If you wait to feel motivated, you will wait forever. One of the biggest lies about productivity is that action should feel good before it begins. This belief keeps millions of people stuck. They wait for confidence, clarity, energy, or inspiration, and when those feelings don't arrive, they delay. Procrastination thrives in this waiting space. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Feelings are not a reliable signal for action. Your emotions change constantly. They respond to sleep, stress, environment, and expectations. If action depends on how you feel, progress becomes random. Strong minds do not act based on emotion. They act based on commitment. This does not mean ignoring emotions. It means not obeying them. Your brain often says, "I don't feel like it," when what it really means is, "This feels uncomfortable." Discomfort is not danger. It is a normal response to effort, uncertainty, and growth. When you confuse discomfort with a stop signal, procrastination takes control. You must learn to separate emotion from instruction. Feeling unmotivated is information, not a command. Feeling resistance is feedback, not a verdict. Action is still possible. This is where most people fail. They believe discipline means forcing themselves through pain. That creates burnout. Real discipline is quieter. It is the ability to move forward without emotional negotiation. You don't ask your feelings for permission. You acknowledge them and act anyway. This chapter is about breaking the emotional loop that keeps pulling you back into delay. That loop looks like this. A task creates discomfort. Discomfort creates avoidance. Avoidance creates relief. Relief reinforces procrastination. Every time you escape discomfort, your brain learns. Avoidance works. The loop strengthens. To break the loop, you must remove relief from avoidance and attach relief to action. This starts with a mindset shift. You are not trying to feel better before acting. You are acting to feel better. Action regulates emotion far more effectively than thinking ever will. When you start, even imperfectly, your nervous system calms. Your mind gains structure. Anxiety drops. Confidence grows. The feeling you were waiting for arrives after movement. Another critical shift is understanding that motivation is a byproduct, not a prerequisite. Motivation follows evidence. Evidence comes from action. Even small actions create proof that you can move forward, which fuels motivation naturally. You also need to redefine what good enough means. Many people procrastinate because they believe effort must match a certain emotional state. They think, if I'm not fully focused, there's no point. If I'm not inspired, I'll do it later. This all-or-nothing thinking is a trap. Progress does not require peak performance. It requires presence. Showing up at 50% beats waiting for 100% that never comes. You must also stop trying to eliminate negative emotion. That battle is unwinnable. Fear, boredom, doubt, and resistance are part of meaningful work. The goal is not to feel fearless. The goal is to function with fear present. This is emotional maturity. Strong minds are not emotionally numb. They are emotionally stable. They do not let momentary feelings dictate long-term behavior. One powerful technique is emotion labeling. When resistance shows up, name it. This is discomfort. This is boredom. This is fear of starting. Labeling creates distance. Distance restores control. When emotions are unnamed, they feel overwhelming. When named, they become manageable. Another technique is action-first scheduling. Instead of scheduling based on mood, schedule based on priority. When the time arrives, you act regardless of how you feel. This removes daily decision-making and emotional debate. You decide once. Then you execute automatically. This is how professionals operate. Athletes train when tired. Writers write when uninspired. Builders build when conditions are imperfect. They understand that consistency beats emotion. You must also learn to lower emotional stakes. Many people procrastinate because they treat every task like a performance. This creates pressure, which increases resistance. Replace performance with process. You are not trying to impress. You are practicing. Practice does not require confidence. It requires repetition. Another critical skill is self-talk discipline. The way you speak to yourself during resistance determines whether you move or stall. If your inner voice negotiates, excuses, or criticizes, action collapses. Replace negotiation with instruction. Instead of, I don't feel like it today, say, start for 5 minutes. Instead of, this is too hard, say, begin the next small step. Short, neutral commands cut through emotion. You should also understand that emotions follow patterns. If you act despite resistance a few times, the brain learns that discomfort does not need avoidance. Over time, resistance weakens. Action becomes familiar. Confidence grows. This is training, not transformation. You are training your nervous system to tolerate effort without panic. Another powerful principle is identity anchoring. When emotions try to take control, anchor your action to identity. This is what someone like me does. I am someone who shows up. Identity-based action is more stable than emotion-based action. You do not need to win every emotional battle. You only need to outlast resistance long enough to begin. Once you start, the emotional storm quiets. This chapter is not telling you to ignore how you feel. It is teaching you not to be ruled by it. Feelings pass. Action remains. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready, your life accelerates. Chapter 6. Build momentum that makes procrastination weak. Procrastination survives in stillness. Momentum destroys it. Most people think momentum comes after success. In reality, momentum comes from movement, not results. Waiting for big wins before feeling motivated is a mistake. Momentum is created through small, repeated actions that signal progress to the brain. Your mind is designed to continue what it starts. When you are inactive, inertia dominates. When you are active, continuation becomes easier than stopping. This is not a motivational idea, it is a psychological law. Stillness invites doubt. Movement creates confidence. Momentum works because it changes how the brain evaluates effort. When you are inactive, starting feels costly. When you are already in motion, continuing feels cheap. The same task that felt impossible before suddenly feels manageable once momentum exists. This is why your goal is not massive productivity. Your goal is consistent motion. One of the biggest reasons people relapse into procrastination is that they try to do too much too fast. They create unsustainable bursts of effort followed by exhaustion. When energy drops, procrastination returns stronger than before. Momentum must be lightweight to be sustainable. This chapter is about building momentum that does not depend on mood, motivation, or perfect conditions. The first rule of momentum is this: never miss twice. Missing a day is human. Missing twice is how habits die. When you miss once, your only job is to return the next opportunity, without guilt, punishment, or overcorrection. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about fast recovery. Momentum survives through forgiveness paired with action. Another critical rule is lowering the daily minimum. Many people procrastinate because their standards are too high to maintain. They believe every session must be intense, long, or impressive. When energy is low, they choose avoidance instead. Instead, set a minimum that is impossible to fail. 5 minutes. 1 paragraph. 1 problem. 1 action. This minimum is not your ceiling. It is your safety net. On good days you do more. On bad days you protect momentum. Momentum is not built by heroic effort. It is built by showing up. You must also learn to track inputs, not outcomes. Outcomes take time. Inputs are immediate. If you focus only on results, progress feels invisible and motivation fades. Track actions. Did you start? Did you show up? Did you execute the next step? Progress becomes visible when effort is measured. Another powerful momentum builder is sequence completion. The brain loves finishing small loops. When you complete even a tiny task, dopamine is released. That dopamine encourages continuation. This is why checking off tasks feels good. It is not childish, it is neurological. Design your work so that completion happens frequently. Break large tasks into small, finishable units. Each completion strengthens momentum. You should also understand the power of starting rituals. A consistent start conditions your brain. When the ritual begins, the brain knows what comes next. Resistance drops. Rituals can be simple. Sitting at the same desk. Opening the same document. Reviewing the same checklist. Starting at the same time. Predictability creates safety. Safety enables action. Momentum is also reinforced by visible progress. When progress is invisible, the brain assumes nothing is happening. This leads to discouragement and delay. Make progress tangible. Use trackers, streaks, notes, or visual markers. Let your brain see evidence that movement is happening. Evidence fuels belief. Belief fuels action. Another key principle is protecting momentum from interruption. Momentum is fragile in the early stages. Too many interruptions fracture focus and drain energy. This means learning to say no. This means reducing multitasking. This means protecting focus windows. You cannot build momentum in constant reaction mode. You must also be careful with restarts. Many people believe they need a fresh start, a new week, a new month, a perfect plan. This thinking resets momentum repeatedly. Momentum does not require a clean slate. It requires continuation. Start where you are. Resume from where you stopped. Do not reset progress because of imperfection. Another momentum killer is self-judgment. Criticizing yourself for slow progress increases emotional friction. Emotional friction leads to avoidance. Replace judgment with adjustment. What is the next small step? How can I simplify today? Momentum grows best in a calm mind. You should also understand that momentum feeds identity. When you act consistently, even in small ways, your self-image changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who procrastinates and start seeing yourself as someone who moves. Identity change locks momentum in place. This is why consistency is more powerful than intensity. Intensity impresses. Consistency transforms. Momentum also requires energy awareness. You cannot build movement while exhausted. Sleep, nutrition, and rest are not rewards, they are requirements. A depleted system invites procrastination. Take care of the engine. Finally, momentum must be directional. Motion without purpose leads to busyness. Ensure that your daily actions align with meaningful goals. This gives momentum meaning, and meaning sustains effort. When momentum is strong, procrastination struggles to survive. Resistance still appears, but it no longer controls behavior. Action becomes familiar. Delay feels unnatural. This is the turning point. You stop fighting procrastination directly. You outgrow it through movement. Chapter 7. Build systems that make procrastination irrelevant. If willpower were enough, procrastination would be easy to beat. But relying on force alone is fragile. Willpower fluctuates with fatigue, stress, and emotion. When it is gone, delay returns. That is why the most reliable solution is systems, not motivation. A system is a set of structures, routines, and rules that guide your behavior automatically. Systems remove the constant reliance on decision-making, discipline, and emotion. They make progress inevitable because your environment, habits, and processes are working for you, not against you. Think about a car. Willpower is like pressing the accelerator with your foot. It works for a while but tires you out. A system is like an engine. It runs efficiently and continuously, even when you are not consciously forcing it. The first step to system building is mapping your processes. Identify the repetitive actions that move your goals forward. Break them into daily, weekly, and monthly patterns. Each pattern should be small enough to maintain but meaningful enough to produce progress. For example, if your goal is writing a book, your system is not write a book in 3 months. It is write 500 words every morning, schedule 2 research sessions per week, review your outline every Sunday. If your goal is fitness, your system is not lose 20 pounds. It is workout Monday, Wednesday, Friday, prepare meals in advance, track progress daily. Systems work because they reduce mental friction. When the next action is predefined, your brain does not debate whether to start. The path is clear. Action becomes automatic. Another critical element is habit stacking. Pair a new system with an existing habit to reinforce behavior. This creates a chain that the brain follows effortlessly. For instance, if you already drink coffee every morning, make writing your 500 words immediately after that cup. The familiar habit triggers the new action. Momentum and systems reinforce each other. Small, consistent actions within a system generate proof of progress. Proof strengthens identity. Identity strengthens action. Action strengthens the system. This is a self-reinforcing loop. Next, implement accountability mechanisms. Systems fail without feedback. Accountability provides external structure to supplement internal consistency. This could be a public commitment, a mentor, a team, or a tracking tool. When you know someone or something is observing your action, procrastination weakens. Another key principle is environmental alignment. Your system must operate in harmony with your environment. Distractions, clutter, or lack of resources break flow. Organize your workspace, tools, and schedule to make system adherence easier than deviation. Simplify rules wherever possible. The more complex a system, the harder it is to follow. Complexity invites procrastination. Elegance is simple. Define clear steps, assign timing, and remove ambiguity. Another powerful technique is time blocking. Allocate dedicated blocks of time to systemized actions. During these blocks, distractions are minimized and focus is maximized. The brain thrives on structure. Predefined time blocks make action automatic. Systems also thrive on tracking and feedback loops. Track inputs, not outcomes. Focus on actions that produce results rather than waiting for the distant reward. Inputs are controllable, outcomes are not. This keeps the brain engaged, motivated, and aligned. Failure in systems is informative, not fatal. If a system does not work, analyze why. Was the step too big? Was the environment misaligned? Was accountability weak? Adjust, restart, and continue. Systems are flexible frameworks, not rigid contracts. Another aspect is reducing choice fatigue. Every decision consumes mental energy, which fuels procrastination. Systems remove unnecessary decisions by predefining next actions. Eat the same breakfast, start at the same time, use the same workflow. Let your brain save energy for execution, not debate. Systems also protect against perfectionism. When structure is predefined, action no longer depends on feeling perfect or ready. It simply becomes the next step in a chain. You act because the system dictates it, not because you feel capable. Automation can extend beyond personal habits. Use tools, templates, reminders, and scripts to make recurring tasks easier. Systems should leverage every resource to reduce resistance. A key mindset to adopt is trusting the system over motivation. Motivation is a bonus. Systems are the backbone. When motivation fades, your system carries you forward. Over time, system-driven progress produces intrinsic motivation as well, because results reinforce belief. Systems also scale. Once one works, it can be applied to multiple goals, creating exponential progress. One robust system builds confidence and demonstrates the power of structure. Another critical insight: systems are identity reinforcement. Acting within a system repeatedly signals to your brain, this is who I am. This is what I do. Identity alignment makes procrastination less appealing because delay contradicts self-image. Finally, remember that systems do not replace learning. They are frameworks for action. Knowledge without action is useless. Systems convert knowledge into repeated, measurable action. They are the bridge from intention to achievement. When you operate in a well-designed system, procrastination is not a battle. It is irrelevant. Resistance may still appear, but it no longer has control. Your environment, habits, routines, and accountability work together to make action natural. Chapter 8. Manage your energy, not just your time. Procrastination is rarely about time. It is about energy. You can have a perfect schedule and still avoid tasks if your energy is low. Trying to force action without energy is like trying to push a car with a dead engine. You may get it moving briefly, but progress will stall quickly. Most people obsess over time management. They create endless to-do lists, color-coded calendars, and rigid schedules. Yet at the end of the day, their tasks remain incomplete. Why? Because energy, not time, determines whether action happens. Without sufficient energy, the best plans fail. Energy is more than physical strength. It includes mental focus, emotional stability, and motivation. You need all four dimensions to consistently execute high-value tasks. Neglect any one and procrastination gains strength. The first step to energy management is understanding your daily rhythms. Every individual has periods of high and low energy throughout the day. These rhythms affect attention, problem-solving, and creativity. Working against your peak times is like swimming upstream. Identify your peak energy windows and schedule critical tasks during these periods. Save low-energy periods for repetitive or routine work. Aligning tasks with natural energy prevents unnecessary resistance. Another crucial aspect is sleep. The brain cannot function optimally when tired. Decision-making, focus, and emotional regulation all degrade with insufficient sleep. Procrastination increases when the brain is exhausted because it interprets effort as threat. Protect sleep is non-negotiable. Nutrition is equally important. Fuel your body and brain with foods that provide sustained energy rather than short-term spikes followed by crashes. Avoid relying on caffeine or sugar as substitutes for consistent energy. Think of your body as an engine. You cannot run premium performance on low-grade fuel. Physical activity also influences energy. Regular movement boosts mood, improves focus, and regulates stress hormones. Even short sessions of exercise can increase mental clarity, making it easier to tackle challenging tasks. Procrastination loses its grip when energy flows. Mental energy management involves reducing cognitive friction. Every unnecessary decision depletes mental energy. Simplify choices in daily life. Automate routines. Use checklists. The less the brain debates, the more it can focus on meaningful work. Emotional energy is often overlooked. Stress, fear, anxiety, and negative self-talk drain willpower and focus. When emotional energy is low, procrastination feels irresistible. Develop strategies to regulate emotions, such as journaling, meditation, or breathing exercises. These practices restore calm and mental clarity. One of the most powerful tools for energy management is strategic breaks. Working endlessly without rest leads to burnout, frustration, and delay. Short, deliberate breaks, walking, stretching, or changing scenery, restore energy and maintain consistent output. The brain recovers, creativity returns, and resistance weakens. Another advanced strategy is energy batching. Group tasks that require similar energy levels together. For example, tackle high-focus work during peak mental energy and low-focus administrative tasks during low-energy periods. This prevents wasted effort and reduces the temptation to procrastinate. Momentum and energy are deeply connected. High energy makes action easier. Action reinforces momentum. Momentum increases confidence. Confidence boosts energy further. This forms a positive feedback loop that accelerates progress. Avoid energy drains in your environment. Toxic relationships, constant notifications, and cluttered spaces consume energy and strengthen procrastination. Protect your energy by removing or minimizing these drains. Curate surroundings and interactions that replenish energy rather than deplete it. Energy management also involves long-term planning. Chronic stress, poor sleep, irregular nutrition, and neglecting recovery will eventually override even the best habits. Treat energy like a renewable resource. Protect, replenish, and optimize it daily. Another key concept is micro-momentum. Even tiny wins boost energy and confidence. Completing a small task releases dopamine, fuels motivation, and primes the brain for the next action. Momentum does not require massive effort. Small steps repeated consistently create unstoppable energy. Your emotional state affects energy and procrastination profoundly. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of success creates internal resistance. Awareness of these fears allows you to act despite discomfort, preventing energy from being wasted on avoidance. Finally, energy management requires self-compassion. Fighting against low energy with force alone leads to frustration and burnout. Accept that energy fluctuates. Use strategic adjustments, not punishment, to maintain consistency. Respect your limits, but never let low energy become an excuse for permanent inaction. When you understand energy management, procrastination becomes much harder to sustain. You learn to harness your body, mind, and emotions in a coordinated system that supports consistent action. This system ensures that even on difficult days, momentum continues and delay loses its grip. Chapter 9. Overcome perfectionism, fear, and internal excuses. Even with systems, momentum, and energy management, procrastination can still appear. Often, the underlying drivers are perfectionism, fear, and internal excuses. These psychological barriers are invisible yet powerful. They sabotage action even when external conditions are perfect. Perfectionism is the silent killer of progress. It masquerades as high standards, discipline, or ambition, but in reality, it is fear disguised as virtue. Perfectionists procrastinate because their brain interprets any start as potentially flawed. If I cannot do it perfectly, why start at all? This mindset traps countless talented individuals in delay loops. Perfectionism often stems from identity misalignment. You believe your value depends on flawless execution. As a result, your brain treats starting as dangerous. The solution is simple but counterintuitive. Detach self-worth from performance. Your value is not determined by the task. It is inherent. You can begin imperfectly without losing worth. You can learn, iterate, and improve. Every expert started with imperfect action. Every achievement is the product of trial, error, and adjustment. Fear is another major driver of procrastination. Fear appears in many forms. Fear of failure. What if I mess up? Fear of judgment. What will others think? Fear of success. What if I achieve and can't handle it? Fear is not irrational. It is natural. The brain reacts to uncertainty and risk by triggering avoidance. Recognizing fear as a signal, not a stop sign, is critical. Fear is information, not instruction. It points to areas of growth, but it does not dictate your behavior. Internal excuses often accompany fear and perfectionism. These are the narratives we tell ourselves to justify delay. I don't have time. I'll do it later. I'm not in the right mood. I need more information. Excuses sound logical, but they are illusions. They temporarily reduce discomfort while guaranteeing stagnation. Every excuse is a form of procrastination masquerading as reasoning. Breaking these barriers requires mindset mastery. Start with naming the barrier. When you notice yourself hesitating, label it. This is fear. This is perfectionism. This is an excuse. Labeling creates distance between identity and behavior. You stop unconsciously obeying internal sabotage and begin consciously directing action. Next, implement incremental exposure. Fear and perfectionism grow when avoided. The more you face them in controlled ways, the weaker they become. Begin with small tasks that trigger mild fear or imperfection. Each successful start reduces the power of resistance. Use predefined decision frameworks to combat excuses. Set rules in advance. If the task is on my list, I start for 5 minutes immediately. If I feel fear, I act anyway. If I notice perfectionist thoughts, I begin imperfectly. These frameworks bypass negotiation with the brain. The less you argue, the faster you act. Another critical strategy is reframing mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They are data for improvement. Every delay caused by fear of error diminishes learning. Shift perspective. Every small failure is proof that you are moving forward. The faster you act, the more evidence you gain and the less control fear has. Accountability amplifies this effect. Share your intentions with someone you trust. External observation increases commitment and reduces internal excuses. Fear and perfectionism lose power when action is visible. Visualization can also be a powerful tool. Instead of imagining worst-case scenarios, imagine positive outcomes and the process of handling challenges successfully. Train the brain to anticipate action rather than avoidance. Focus on the feeling of accomplishment after starting, not the discomfort before. Another key principle is rewarding progress over results. Perfectionists focus on flawless outcomes. Fearful individuals avoid risk entirely. By rewarding completion, not perfection, you create a psychological environment where starting is inherently satisfying. Dopamine reinforces action, not judgment. You must also challenge the later mindset. Thoughts like, I'll do it tomorrow, or later is better, are habitual procrastination scripts. Break the habit by acting immediately on predefined next steps. 2-minute rules, micro steps, and environment cues support this behavior. Internal excuses are strongest when your attention is fragmented. Reduce cognitive clutter and simplify tasks into clear, actionable steps. Ambiguity strengthens fear and perfectionism. Clarity neutralizes it. Perfectionism, fear, and excuses thrive in isolation. Build supportive systems and communities that normalize starting imperfectly. Observe others taking action despite discomfort. Social proof reduces internal barriers. Finally, remember identity alignment. You are someone who acts despite fear. You are someone who begins despite imperfection. You are someone who prioritizes action over excuse. Internalize this identity. Each small act reinforces it, gradually eliminating procrastination from your behavior. Breaking these psychological barriers is not one-time work. It is ongoing training. Every challenge, delay, or discomfort is an opportunity to practice mindset mastery. With repeated exposure, perfectionism softens, fear loses its grip, and excuses become irrelevant. Chapter 10. Align your goals, vision, and priorities. Procrastination thrives when your goals are vague, scattered, or misaligned with what truly matters. A lack of clarity creates uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers avoidance. To overcome procrastination permanently, you must align your goals with your vision, purpose, and priorities, creating an internal GPS that directs every action. Clarity is the ultimate procrastination antidote. When the brain knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and why, resistance weakens. Vagueness creates friction. I want to be successful is abstract. I will write 500 words at 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is specific. Specificity transforms intention into motion. Begin by defining your core vision. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? What impact do I want to create? Your vision is your North Star. It provides context for every task, small or large. Without it, action feels optional and procrastination thrives. Next, clarify goals. Distinguish between outcomes and processes. Outcome goals are the results you want to achieve. Weight loss, a promotion, financial freedom. Process goals are the actions that lead to those outcomes. Exercising, learning, saving, networking. The brain responds better to process goals because they are actionable and immediate. Prioritize ruthlessly. Not every task deserves equal energy. Procrastination often emerges when your brain is forced to choose between many competing demands. Rank tasks by impact and urgency. Focus on the 20% of actions that produce 80% of results. Eliminate or delegate low-value work. Once priorities are clear, visualize the path forward. Visualization is more than daydreaming. It is a detailed mental rehearsal of action steps. Imagine starting the task, facing resistance, navigating challenges, and completing it. Visualization reduces fear, builds confidence, and primes your brain for execution. Another key technique is backward mapping. Start with the ultimate goal and work backward to identify the sequence of steps needed to achieve it. This breaks intimidating goals into manageable segments and removes the mental resistance caused by ambiguity. Daily planning should connect your actions directly to your vision and goals. Each morning or evening, identify the next critical actions. Which tasks, if completed today, move me closest to my highest priorities? What is the smallest possible action I can take right now? By linking daily execution to long-term purpose, you bypass the trap of short-term distraction and internal excuses. Clarity also reduces emotional friction. Fear, perfectionism, and procrastination thrive in uncertainty. When you know exactly what to do and why, your brain perceives safety and action becomes easier. Another principle is intentional alignment. Examine whether your current behaviors match your stated goals. Often, procrastination is a symptom of misalignment. If you consistently delay a task, it may signal that your goal needs refinement, adjustment, or deeper motivation. Address the misalignment rather than forcing action blindly. Leverage written commitments. Document your goals, steps, and priorities. Writing creates external evidence, solidifies intention, and reduces mental ambiguity. This transforms abstract vision into concrete accountability. Time blocking combined with goal alignment multiplies effectiveness. Assign high-priority tasks to peak energy periods. Protect these blocks fiercely. Treat them as non-negotiable appointments with your future self. To further prevent procrastination, implement visible tracking. Checklists, charts, streak trackers, or journals let your brain see progress in real time. Seeing completion releases dopamine, reinforces behavior, and reduces avoidance. Another powerful method is reward alignment. Connect meaningful, immediate rewards to action. The human brain favors short-term gratification, so tie positive reinforcement to the behaviors that produce long-term goals. This bridges the gap between effort and reward, reducing procrastination. Periodic review is essential. Evaluate progress weekly or monthly. Am I still aligned with my vision? Are my priorities shifting? Are my systems and environment supporting action? Adjustment is part of alignment. Goals and circumstances change, your strategy should evolve too. Procrastination often creeps in when we persist with outdated plans or methods. Adaptation keeps momentum strong. Finally, link identity to action. See yourself as the person who consistently executes high-priority goals. Identity-driven action bypasses procrastination because delay contradicts who you believe you are. Each aligned action strengthens this identity, making future action easier. When vision, goals, and priorities are fully aligned, procrastination becomes an afterthought. Tasks are no longer abstract or optional. They are inevitable steps along a clear path. Resistance still appears, but it is manageable. Your brain knows what to do and why. Motion becomes natural. Chapter 11: Accountability, Mastery, and the End of Procrastination. You have learned how to shrink tasks, design environments, act despite feelings, build momentum, create systems, manage energy, overcome internal barriers, and align goals. These are powerful tools, but the final piece of the puzzle is accountability and mastery, the elements that transform all knowledge into unstoppable, lasting action. Procrastination thrives in isolation. The human brain evolved to respond to social cues, norms, and expectations. When you act alone, without external checks or visibility, avoidance feels safe. Accountability introduces pressure. Not punitive pressure, but structural pressure that aligns your actions with results. Accountability takes many forms. You can use external accountability, mentors, coaches, partners, teams, or communities. You can also create internal accountability systems, public commitments, journals, progress trackers, or personal challenges. The key is visibility. When action is seen, consciously or subconsciously, the mind recognizes that avoidance has consequences. One of the strongest tools is public declaration. When you commit to completing a goal in front of others, your brain takes notice. Social psychology confirms that we are motivated to maintain consistency between words and actions. Public commitment amplifies discipline. Accountability does not replace systems or personal effort. It reinforces them. Systems keep you moving. Accountability keeps you honest. Momentum keeps you engaged. Together, they form a compound force that leaves procrastination powerless. Another critical aspect is mastery. Mastery is the continual improvement and refinement of your skills and processes. When you focus on mastery, action becomes less intimidating. Fear of imperfection diminishes because your priority shifts from performing perfectly to improving constantly. Mastery also shifts identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who procrastinates. You become someone who learns, executes, and progresses. Identity-driven behavior is the most robust defense against delay because it aligns self-image with action. Another powerful strategy is habit integration. Combine the lessons from previous chapters. Small steps, momentum, systems, energy management, and alignment with goals. When these habits interlock, procrastination becomes irrelevant. Your environment, your routines, your identity, and your social context all nudge you toward action naturally. Reflection and feedback loops are essential for mastery. Evaluate not only outcomes but processes. Ask yourself, did I execute as planned? Did I overcome internal resistance? What adjustments improve next time? This reflection turns experience into evidence, and evidence strengthens belief. Belief reinforces action. Action builds mastery. Mastery protects against procrastination. Another cornerstone is resilience to failure. Even with accountability and systems, you will face setbacks. Tasks will be delayed. Effort will falter. Perfectionism and fear will occasionally return. The difference between temporary failure and prolonged procrastination is response. Train yourself to recover quickly. Missed action today is not permanent. Restart immediately. Each restart strengthens identity and demonstrates consistency. Resilience is the final guard against procrastination. Emotional intelligence is also part of mastery. Learn to recognize when fear, doubt, or fatigue influences behavior. Label emotions, acknowledge them, and act despite them. Acting while uncomfortable is a skill, and it can be developed deliberately. Goal clarity and vision alignment, when paired with accountability and mastery, create an ecosystem of action. Every decision, every habit, every environmental cue, and every social interaction is designed to support progress. Procrastination can no longer hide in ambiguity, fatigue, fear, or distraction. The ultimate truth: procrastination is not a personality flaw. It is a learned behavior, a result of misaligned systems, unclear goals, insufficient momentum, and avoidance of discomfort. Every principle in this book is designed to systematically remove those barriers. When these strategies are fully implemented, action becomes automatic. You no longer negotiate with your feelings or debate endlessly with yourself. You begin because it is natural. You continue because the system, environment, energy, and identity are aligned. You succeed because accountability and mastery demand it. The final mindset shift is this: become unstoppable by design. Create conditions where starting, continuing, and completing are easier than delaying. Cultivate systems that operate independently of motivation. Build identity and confidence that anchor you to action. Protect energy, maintain momentum, and learn constantly. Procrastination is not eliminated by willpower. It is made irrelevant by intentional design, consistent execution, and unstoppable momentum. This is your framework for achieving your biggest goals. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. No. Every principle you have learned, from small steps to energy management, from alignment to accountability, is actionable today. Apply it. Refine it. Trust it. Master it. The only remaining choice is yours. Start now, continue consistently, and transform procrastination from a habit into a distant memory. You have all the tools. You have the strategies. You have the mindset.